Do you wonder what type of batting you should buy for your quilt project? Are you left confused by all the different types of batting?
And how different can they be anyways?
Today we are diving into that middle component of the quilt sandwich. We'll explore different types of quilt batting, looking at their properties, their costs, and the advantages for choosing the right one for your quilt project. And stay to the end for my top tip that many quilters often overlook. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. When our ancestors made quilts, they stuffed the middle with whatever they had. Often it was carded wool or cotton, but often they used old blankets, sheets, socks, and many other things. Today, we are so lucky we have access to so many different types of manufactured batting. And by the way, the terms batting and wadding are totally interchangeable. They mean exactly the same thing.
The most common fibers that are used in batting are polyester, cotton, and wool. And these are often blended together to get polycotton, cotton and wool, plus there are bamboo blends and silk blends. These fibers are brushed and bonded together through needle punching or the addition of glues and resins or through thermal melting. The combination of the fiber and the method gives the batting its color, loft, drape, and warmth. There are many different batting manufacturers, and one brand of cotton can feel different from another. There are also many different varieties within a brand. This brand's polycotton is 80-20, but this brand's is 50-50. Some batting comes in bags and some on the roll.
Now, all these choices can easily overwhelm you, leaving you wondering, what is the best type of batting for my quilt? So for a beginner, let's start with the most important factors for you. Quilting is a marathon, and one of the top reasons that a quilt top doesn't get quilted is the cost of the batting. And it's really difficult to spend hard-earned money on something that no one will ever see but you. So start with batting that you can afford.
Recently, I did a comparison on the cost per square foot of batting by the bag. On a scale of cheapest to most expensive, the polyester battings are the least expensive, followed by polycotton, then cotton, then the specialty fibers, wool, bamboo, and silk. I also compared the pricing of batting of different sizes by fiber. Crib size is the most expensive per square foot, with king being the least. This example was for cotton, and the trend was exactly the same across all fibers. So if you need to make several quilts, like a couple of crib quilts plus a twin, it would actually be less expensive to purchase one large king batting and then cut that down into the 2 cribs and twin. Bags are the perfect size for a quilt for a standard size mattress, but if you are making an odd size project like a wall hanging or an extra large quilt, using a standard bag size batting will produce too much wastage.
So another strategy is to purchase your batting by the yard. Batting has no nap, so you can lay your batting this way on the roll.
So it's great for only buying what you need. And it's often a better price per square foot than the bags as well.
So for those projects that you have fallen out of love with, or the ones that you just want to get done, don't hesitate to buy the least expensive stuff you can find. Done is better than perfect. And for those special projects, keep an eye out for when those premium battings go on sale, or there's a coupon you can use towards them. What batting can you purchase nearby? The easier it is to purchase, the more likely you are to buy it. and then get that project done. Since very few stores can afford to keep all the brands in all the sizes, in all the fibers in stock, they most likely have chosen a brand that is the best value for them, and then they stock it in the most common sizes and fibers that their customers like to buy. So take a look at your local stores and find out what types and sizes are actually available. My local quilt store stocks batting in bags of poly, polycotton, cotton, and wool, which is great for when I need something quickly. If I drive a little bit farther, I can find batting on the roll in poly, polycotton, and cotton, but it's expensive, so I have to wait till it goes on sale. If I drive 90 minutes out of town, there is a store that sells batting by the roll in poly, polycotton, cotton, and wool at a good price if I want to buy it in bulk and store it. For me, silk and bamboo battings are not available nearby, so when I need them, I look online. So by knowing what batting is available where, you'll know how much time and effort that you need to get the batting that you want. How many times will the item you are quilting need to be washed? If the answer is a lot, like if it's a baby quilt or a TV quilt, be sure you are using a batting that is easy to care for. Polyester and polycotton will stand up to regular washing. Cotton and bamboo blends can also handle your washing machine, but use a gentle cold water wash and use the eco setting on the dryer. Wool and silk are more delicate, with hand washing recommended. But honestly, I just use a delicate quick wash on these as well. So think of how it will be used and if the recipient can handle the extra care. Shrinkage is important if you need a particular size. A number of years ago, I did some experiments with cotton batting and found that baby quilts shrunk at least 2 inches on 2 sides, and that my king size quilt shrunk 5 inches overall. Well, I've been at it again. I have found that polyester and silk has a minimal amount of shrinking. Polycotton and bamboo is minimal to moderate, and cotton and wool is moderate to high. However, that only refers to batting on its own, or if you use pre-wash fabrics on both the top and the bottom. When you don't pre-wash, shrinkage happens every time, as the cotton of the top and the back will shrink, regardless of what batting's inside. Now, the other reason why shrinkage is important is in the crinkleification. That's how much texture arises after a wash. Personally, I love that crinkle in my quilts. And here are some samples. This one is cotton. This one is silk. This one is bamboo. And this one is wool. If you are making a show quilt or you prefer your quilt to remain flat, be sure to pre-wash your fabrics and choose maybe a poly or a silk. Working with the various battings will reveal properties and preferences that you can only learn by experience. For example, I find that both poly and polycotton has really fine little fibers that get into my eyes and irritate them. But I don't know of anyone else that has this same issue. I met a quilter last month that said every time she uses bamboo, she experiences these dust-like particles that cover her from head to toe. But personally, I've never had an issue with bamboo.
Some quilters find certain cottons too dense to machine quilt with, but that they've had no issues when they have used it on a long arm. So
it's funny, but you'll only learn about these issues by testing out the various types of batting. So before we get to my top tip, here are some other properties that might be important to you.
Puffiness. You might be surprised with how flat quilts are, especially when compared to duvets. In quilting, we call this thickness loft. And if loft is what you want the most, you can find the biggest loft in polyester batting, followed by wool.
Allergies for you or the intended recipient. Silk, cotton, and bamboo are considered hypoallergenic. Wool and poly the least. Color. If you are working with a bright white background, you might choose white batting to keep their colors vibrant.
And I showed you what a difference it makes in my problem with white video. And a black batting will do the same for a dark background. How about quilt density? If you want to tie your quilt or space out your quilting, you should look for a batting with scrim. Now you might be asking, what is scrim? It's a thin polypropylene binder used in making cotton batting. It makes the batting stronger, which means that your quilting can be wider apart.
Temperature.
If you are in a cold climate, it would be a good guess that wool is considered best. But what's surprising is wool is also good for very warm climates, followed by bamboo a close second. Softness. This is often called drape with batting. Think of how easy it flows over an edge, or how long it keeps a crease. Silk is the best for this, which is why it's often used in show quilts, fiber arts, and heirloom quilting.
Now, I am not a hand quilter, but I have been told by those that do that needle punched cotton is best, and to avoid any batting with a scrim. Now, if you know me, you probably have anticipated that my top tip has to deal with scraps. And next year's Declutter Challenge is just around the corner, and many of you will have batting scraps to sort through. How many types of batting scraps are you actually wanting to keep? I have tried a variety of battings over the years, and I now find the best policy for me is to buy my favorite batting in bulk and use it for everything. That way, I'm just keeping one type of batting scraps. All the leftovers go in this bucket, and I'm constantly piecing them together to make Franken batting. I showed you how to join the pieces in this video here. Now, at one point, I did try a 2-roll system, a cheaper brand to use for my charity quilts, and a more expensive one for my good quilts, but now I just buy one. I find it makes life so much simpler. So before you buy your batting, take a moment to think of what you're going to do with your batting scraps. And most importantly, how much space do you want them taking up in your sewing room? This is a long video and I'll have to cut it here. I have given my best tips highlighting the features of the various fibers. But I know you have more questions than this, so be sure to write those questions down in the comments and I will answer them in another video. If you are finishing off a quilt, take a look at my Finish Your Quilt playlist here. It'll talk about how to make a quilt sandwich, what goes on the back, some fast and easy quilt tips, and most importantly, how to put on the binding. Take care, and I'll see you next time.